Okay. All right. I'm, this is it. I can't do this. I can't do this. And fuck you. Yeah. Yeah, I can't see this. Right. I am. Okay.
Good afternoon or good evening. I'm Eric Blank, the chair of the commission. Before we go on the record, we're going to start with a short summary of the proceeding by our communications director, Megan Castle. Megan.
Thank you. This is to give a short background. Public Service is seeking approval of its 2024 Just Transition Solicitation Plan, or the JTS, which was filed October 15, 2024. It has the PUC proceeding number 24A-0442E, which is a number to refer to if you want to follow the case. The concept of the JTS first appeared in the partial settlement agreement that was filed in the 2021 Electric Resource Plan and Clean Energy Plan in April 2022. The JTS includes that Unit 3 of the coal-fired facility in Pueblo will retire no later than January 1st, 2031, and that Public Service would defer acquiring replacement resources for it to the JTS. The JTS also provided additional time for further progress towards the 2050 goal of 100% clean energy, to improve optionality, to give technology time to continue developing, and to maintain flexibility. Public Services application lists several objectives for the JTS, including fulfilling resource adequacy and providing reliable service, continuing progress on emissions reductions, delivering a just transition, and improving Colorado's electric resource planning process. Regarding just transition, Public Services approach consists of a modeling component, a development component, and an economic development component. Public Service will provide 10 years of community assistance payments to Pueblo County and 6 years of payments to Routt County and Morgan County, with such payments being offset by any infrastructure investments in the communities. Once the final JTS portfolio is approved, it will file an application to include the community assistance payment values for each community, netted with any new property tax offsets from the portfolio. Also, regarding economic development, Public Service offers to facilitate discussions with large new loads, such as data centers, to potentially site these loads in just transition communities. There are a total of 24 parties that are interveners in this proceeding. An evidentiary hearing will be held this month where parties may cross-examine the witnesses on their testimony. After that, the Commission will take up the matter for decision and decide whether to approve, modify, or deny the JTS application. More information on the JTS can be found on the PUC's Key Issues webpage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. We're now on the record. It's 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 5th, 2025. This is a public comment hearing in proceeding number 24A-0442E, Public Service Company of Colorado's Just Transition Solicitation Plan Filing, or JTS. Again, I'm Eric Blank, the PUC chair, and I just want to start off by thanking everyone for coming out, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing your comments. I have more to say in a few moments, but can my colleagues introduce themselves for the record? Commissioner Gilman.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Megan Gilman.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Tom Plant.
Thank you both. Before we begin taking comments, I want to briefly explain how a public comment hearing works. There is a court reporter who's listening to this proceeding, taking down what you say for the record. This comment hearing is formal, like a court proceeding, and we ask that the audience be respectful of the speakers that comment today. In our role as commissioners at this stage of the process, we are here to listen and learn, and to make sure your comments are reflected in the record. We will not answer questions or respond to statements. Like a good judge, we cannot engage in dialogue on a case pending before us. The case is ongoing, and we will not make any decisions until after the evidentiary hearing that starts next week. If you want to speak, please use the hand icon or just turn on your camera, and I will call on people in order. We have a large number of people registered to speak, and to allow time for everyone to be heard. I'd request that each commenter limit themselves to roughly 2 or 3 minutes. The Commission equally weighs public comments received ways public comments receive written or orally. So we encourage people to follow up by filing whatever you'd like in written form. Written comments can be filed through the Commission's e-filing system, submitted via the Commission's online comment form, or email to Dora_PUC_website@state.co.us. In each case, please specify this proceeding number 24A-0442E. As I said before, we very much look forward to hearing your comments. We certainly don't have all the answers, which is why this process and hearing from you is so important. With that, I want to thank all of you again for taking the time to be here and share your thoughts. And we'll get into it in a second. But Commissioner Gilman, preliminary thoughts?
Yeah, I would just share you're welcome, and really appreciate those of you here willing to spend your afternoon, evening on a beautiful summer day. But it's really critical for us to hear from the public, especially in such an important and large proceeding about the future of many energy generation sources and support for many of our energy transition communities in the state. So really look forward to hearing all of your perspectives. Thanks so much.
Commissioner Plant?
Yeah, I would just share that. Thank you all for spending your time with us this evening. We've done a few of these in person in various places around the state, and I know a lot of times it's difficult for people to get to those. And so really, I'm glad we have an opportunity to do this virtual one so that anybody can participate from anywhere, and we can hear your comments and get them into the record and consider them as we are hearing this case, which I guess is starting next week. So thanks a lot.
All right, let's jump into it. I think we'll try and start with electives, although I don't know if my list is complete, but Jean Lim from Broomfield.
Good evening, PUC Commissioners. My name is Jean Lim, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a Broomfield City Council member regarding the Just Transition solicitation. The PUC should ensure that the JTS maximizes usage of clean energy to meet the electricity needs of Broomfield residents and businesses in the coming years. Broomfield has GHG reduction goals of 50% by 2030 and 90% by 2050. In assisting Broomfield and other local communities to meet their GHG goals, Xcel should avoid the construction of new gas plants. According to a January 2021 resident survey conducted by the City and County in Broomfield, 90% of Broomfield residents report that they have noticed a change in Colorado's climate. These residents are exposed to increasing risks to their health and lives from extreme heat. Air pollution, caused in large part by oil and gas operations, impedes Broomfield residents' ability to safely go outside. No other communities should suffer the impacts of oil and gas drilling near residential neighborhoods, as my constituents and I have, in order to provide the resources for new gas plants. It is also a waste of ratepayer dollars to build outdated plants when renewable energy sources are now economical options. We need to prioritize placement of new clean energy resources in Pueblo, Routt County, and other communities impacted by the transition from coal. In Pueblo, the energy park envisioned by Energy Innovation combines solar, wind power, and battery storage. It will create jobs and generate local property tax revenue for a just transition in that area. Since I understand the challenges that Xcel and other utilities have to meet our growing energy demands, I testified in support of HB 25-1292, transmission lines in state highway rights-of-way, during the recent legislative session. As we look for ways to facilitate transmission and keep utility costs down, we must also maximize the usage of clean energy. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. I don't know if we have any other elected, so I'll just go with Ms. Catherine Goff. There you are.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Goff, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a North Glen City Council member. North Glen is a diverse community of more than 38,000, and our residents all live within a few blocks of Interstate 25. Air quality is a huge concern here. We have 2 air quality monitors in the Love My Air network in North Glen. Our carbon emission reduction goals are to reduce emissions by 20% in 2030 and to reach 90% by 2050. We have a strong sustainability plan, but cannot control what drives through our community on the interstate. Decisions made at the statewide level have impacts on us at the local level, as you know. I am asking that you move quickly to help us and other concerned communities to meet our greenhouse gas goals. I have been an active member of the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board in North Glen since its inception. A just transition plan must take into account those most impacted by your plans. Please make sure that the new clean energy facilities are built in communities that are losing jobs in this transition. For example, in Pueblo and in Routt County. We all receive the benefits of clean air, but some people pay more of the cost than others. This is not what equity looks like. One last comment I would like to make is to emphasize that ratepayers should not be burdened with the cost of transitioning to clean energy. A just transition calls for minimizing financial impacts to those who are making barely enough to get by. Companies such as Xcel can spread the costs over many years, but families struggling in our current economy cannot. Please move quickly to protect the air quality and livelihoods of Colorado residents. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Ms. Patty Durand.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me. My name is Patty Durand, and I am here to offer a stark warning to the people of California from Georgia. Do not follow our footsteps into nuclear energy. The promises made by the nuclear industry and Georgia Power regarding 2 new reactors at Plant Vogtle proved monumentally false. In 2008, Georgia Power forecast a 4% annual load growth to justify its need. That not only never materialized annually, it didn't materialize in the 15-year construction timeline for the reactors. And on April 30th of last year, the second of the 2 reactors were completed, making the project the largest nuclear generating station in the United States and the only nuclear construction in the nation in the last 30 years. The 7-year construction timeline that was projected turned into 15 years. The $14 billion cost projections ballooned to $36 billion. And the promised 2 to 3% rate impact was off by 10 times. The actual rate increase that occurred last year, May 1st, was 23.7% increase for residential rates for just 1,020 megawatts of power. That is the largest rate increase, not only in state history, but in US history. And that is in addition to the $1,000 collected on our bills from an early tariff called QIP, Construction Work in Progress, that households paid, each Georgia Power household paid before a single electron was generated over the 15 years of construction. So if you moved or you died, you paid for something you never got. In some years, that QIP tariff added 10.3% to customers' monthly bills. It was not a small amount. And so, just to be clear, while it was touted as the largest carbon-free generating facility, Georgia Power likes to say, Plant Vogtle was not about clean energy. Since its completion, Georgia Power has aggressively pursued new gas plants faster than any other utility. In 2023 alone, Georgia Power secured approval for 6,000 megawatts of gas and are seeking another 8,000 megawatts this year, and are pushing our commission to cancel all scheduled coal plant retirements while sidelining solar energy, our largest natural asset in Georgia. And interestingly, since Vogel's completion last May, there have been no other utilities to follow our path. There are suggestions and interest in SMRs, small modular reactors, which Excel appears to be interested in, but they are neither viable and are already more expensive than Plant Vogel. Vogel's consortium structure, the way they have organized the partners with no single majority partner, has made it notoriously difficult to assign accountability. But let me just clarify for you that Georgia Power alone added $11.1 billion to their rate base for their 45.7% share of the project of just 1,020 megawatts, which makes it the most expensive electricity in the world. Nuclear is often touted as baseload or firm and reliable, but what is needed in today's modern grid is flexibility for peak demand, which nuclear does not provide, but renewables do, and grid modernization policies and programs do, such as demand response and virtual power plants, all of which Georgia has very little of. Those are not as profitable. And anyway, how can electricity be considered reliable when over 20,000 Georgia Power customers are disconnected every single month due to their ability to pay the high bills from Vogel's impact? Last year, almost 200,000 Georgia Power customers were disconnected. Georgia Power has the highest disconnect rate in the country, along with the largest nuclear generating facility, and those are not coincidental, those are correlated. The clean energy transition must be affordable and rapid, and nuclear is demonstrably neither. So I offered this testimony today in hopes of helping the people of Colorado avoid Georgia's mistakes. Do not be swayed by the false promises of the nuclear energy industry that this time will be different, because they literally said on time and on budget over and over and over again to us, as the reverse was actually true. Nuclear is the sole technology whose costs have never decreased, and it is not needed for this moment. So just finally, to learn more about the specifics of what happened, a coalition of nonprofits in Georgia created a report that you can download for free at a URL truthaboutvogel.com, which shares details around what happened and lessons learned. And I wish you the best of luck in your deliberations.
Thank you. Appreciate your sharing. Ms. Blustrom.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Leslie Glustrom. I often wait till the end, but I have another commitment tonight, so I appreciate this opportunity. I always appreciate the Commissioners taking this time to listen to the public. I know you believe it in general, but I would ask you, as you face this monumental, monstrous, let's call it monstrous proceeding, I would ask you to take that thinking a little bit deeper. If I know you don't have the time, but if you had the time to go back and look at public comments over the last, about 20 years, you would realize that the public called it right time and time again. And all the expensive attorneys and expert witnesses at the PUC didn't call it right. The two biggest examples being the Pueblo Unit 3 coal plant. To my memory, there was only one person who ever supported that idea in public comment. And he's like, oh, it'd be good for my stock. I bought a bunch of stock in Excel. This will be good for it. And then the other big example is clean air, clean jobs, putting expensive retrofits on the coal plant in Brush, the one Excel calls Pawnee, as well as retrofits in Hayden. We all now know that all those coal plants will be retired long before those investments are paid off, leaving Colorado with about $1 billion in stranded assets. Before going on, I just want to thank Mr. Rand for taking the time to, tune in from Georgia to help us learn these lessons here in Colorado. So I was going to say this proceeding is extensively brief, but really it's massively briefed. I had to have eye surgery for a hole in my macula. I haven't been able to read very well. I may have missed something, but there are a couple big things that, despite the thousands of pages of testimony, I think are missing. And to begin with, we know from Excel's financial reports, their 10K, that in 2024, they had $782 million of after-tax net income in Colorado. We'll come back to that, but that's, over $750 million of after-tax net income. To me, that should be top line on, it should be up in the header of every page in every proceeding. They already had $782 million of after-tax net income. They're not doing badly. They certainly don't need the slush funds, which, the CFFD 100 million or the SRRF at 500 million. Let's think about it. With 782 million of after-tax net income, if they wanted 600 million, like every other business has to do to think about their supply chain, they could set aside 200 million a year for the next 3 years and still almost certainly have over $500 million of after-tax net income. Think of that as profits. Every other business is having to manage their supply chain. How many dolls, how many widgets, how many frilly dresses for little girls should they buy? And when they get it wrong, they have to eat it. Excel's return on equity is 9.3% currently. That implies some risk. They can act like every other company, and they can decide which risks they want to take. There's absolutely no reason to use their customers as their kind of piggy bank and pay them back with, return on weighted average cost of capital, all that. So that's one big thing that's missing. I've loaded up the graph that we keep, and thousands of people have seen that graph. So I encourage you to look at it 3 o'clock this afternoon. Excel sales have been flat. Their profits have more than tripled. That when I show that, people are like, where's the commission? I thought we had a good commission. I'm like, yeah, we got a great commission. But Excel knows how to play the game. So we'll come back to that. The other big issue that I don't see well discussed is the fact that reliability depends much more these days on what happens on the transmission and the distribution system, not on resource adequacy. Of course, we need to think about resource adequacy, but we also need to think very, very carefully about what's going to happen. It used to be you'd have an extreme weather event, when we were kids, once every 2 years or 3 years or something. But no, that's not the way the world is anymore. I've also uploaded the analysis that shows about 80% of grid outages are related to extreme weather. And we ain't, forgive my language, we ain't seen nothing yet when it comes to extreme weather. So as you face these big questions about how much to spend on transmission and distribution, I also uploaded the map of tornadoes in Colorado. I really encourage you to open that up and recognize that if you do what Excel and some of the parties want, you'll be putting billions of dollars right into the Eastern Plains, which is absolutely covered with dots from tornadoes over the last several decades. So to wrap up, I just want to give you with 3 S's. This is obviously a big, complex mess that you've got in front of you, and thank you. I'm always super grateful to you. But I would ask that you keep it simple. This was supposed to be the just transition solicitation. Figure out what to do about the 500 megawatts of Pueblo Unit 3 plus 2028 and 2029 resources. Keep it there. Don't be pushed fast. That's what Excel wants. They want you to spend a lot of money like every salesperson. Buy this computer now or you'll lose the opportunity. Or, what they always imply is if you don't give us these resources, the lights will go out. But we have good reason to believe that the data center issue is a bubble. The data centers are playing the states off. We've already had some cancellations. That's all in the briefing. And it's very likely to be a bubble. Please, if the data centers want to come in, they can do what's been suggested by the UCA, Utility Consumer Advocate. They can both put up the capital and they can sign take or pay contracts. When they're serious, they'll do that. There's no reason to put those huge expenditures on to ratepayers. So keep it simple, go slow. We're going to have another ERP in a couple of years. So just do what the JTS was supposed to do and put everything else off, because otherwise we're very likely to end up with a lot of stranded assets. And finally, I would ask that you be savvy. You're all very smart. We have 3 wickedly smart commissioners. Thank you very much. But remember to be savvy. You know the game. Please remember it. Excel's game is how can we pour a lot of capital into our system, make capital expenditures, put it in the rate base, and drive up our profits. So please remember all that, and don't let Excel do what every salesman and pickpocket and everybody else does, which is to overwhelm you and then, take our money and run. So appreciate you very much, commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Sarah Kunstler.
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Sarah Kunstler, and I'm speaking on behalf of Mountain Mamas, a nonprofit led by moms from across Colorado, working to clean up our air and water and ensure future generations have a healthy planet. We're here today because we have serious concerns about Excel's proposal to replace the closing coal plant in Pueblo. Excel is asking this commission to discard long-standing rules that protect customers, rules that ensure we only pay for projects that are necessary and beneficial. Instead, Excel is proposing two massive slush funds totaling over $600 million. One would allow $100 million in early stage experiments with little oversight. The other would let Excel collect up to $500 million from ratepayers to pre-purchase gas plant equipment before the commission decides whether those plants should even be built. If that equipment goes unused and loses value, customers eat the loss. If it sells for more, Excel shareholders pocket the profits without taking any risk. Even worse, these proposals come as Excel is already backsliding on its commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, commitments that are required under Colorado law. The company is falling short of its 80% reduction target by 2030, and continuing to invest in new gas infrastructure will only push us further off track. Coal plants are retiring, and that's a good thing. It's our chance to build a cleaner, healthier, more affordable energy system. But instead of embracing renewables, Excel wants to double down on fossil fuels and unproven technologies. The closure of Comanche is a rare opportunity to do better. You've heard about the proposed Pueblo Energy Park, a visionary plan that leverages the existing site, local workforce, and proven clean energy technologies like solar, wind, battery, and thermal storage. These are solutions already working across the country and ready to be deployed before 2030. They create long-term, good-paying jobs without the pollution Pueblo has endured for decades. This is the time to invest in real, shovel-ready renewable energy, not speculative gas plants or risky experiments. Please reject these slush funds. Support local, community-driven solutions like the Pueblo Energy Park. Families are counting on it for affordability, for energy security, and for the health of their children and our planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Arjan Makahani.
Makijani.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a J, not an H. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. You're an unusual commission to have actually a just transition proceeding, and I congratulate you for that, especially, and I hope that the outcome will merit the title. I'm going to focus my comments on the nuclear side of things. I appreciate that the community Pueblo has hosted a coal-fired power plant, a very large one, and wants to keep the benefits of having generation in the community, even though Pueblo is not part of the Excel service territory. So some other ratepayers may pay the cost of, high cost of nuclear power plants. I understand the community wants to keep the economic benefits and make them grow, even take the opportunity of the closure of the plants, maybe to even have greater benefits. I've read the community's wishes and plans in that regard. So the small modular reactor nuclear plant seems to be in the center of that. Will that plan accomplish what the community thinks? I'm not going to make a prediction, but I want to give you the history. I've been doing energy work since 1970. I have a doctorate in electrical engineering, and I started my work in energy when I started my doctorate in 1970 at UC Berkeley. So just, I guess, old doesn't necessarily mean wise, but for whatever it's worth. So I just want to give you the history. When I started work in 1970, the mantra was that we would need 1,000 nuclear reactors by the year 2000. Everybody believed this. I didn't know where that number came from other than 7% growth every year forever, and that nuclear was better than coal. That was the setting. Eventually, an energy crisis came, the growth rate went down. The projections didn't change much, but 1,000 reactors turned into 220 planned. Just over 200 were ordered in the sense of actually applying to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. 120, that is 12% of the hoped for, were completed. 83 were canceled. That's maybe one or two here and there. This is my count from the official data. And 10, 15 or 20 were canceled before applying for a permit. So out of 220 planned, about 120 finished. It was some 55% completion rate, somewhat better than 50% completion rate. There were high costs, delays, and the consistent overestimate of demand, and this is something that's already come up here from other speakers, led to cancellations of plants and large costs even before they were canceled. You know, TVA had, for instance, had 14 reactors under construction, and that was far too many, and they canceled 8 of them. So that was the first round. A little better than 55% success, you know, with cost overruns and delays, but success of completion projects. Second round, the nuclear renaissance was announced in 2005. The NRC actually built a new building to accommodate the rush of applications. I live in the area, so I pass by that building quite often. Of the 31, only 4 started construction. A lot of money was spent on the others. I know in the South Texas project, about $800 million was spent before any cement was poured, and that's all down the drain. So 4 started construction, 2 in South Carolina, 2 in Georgia, the ones that Patty Durant told you about so eloquently. And the ones in Georgia and South Carolina were canceled after $9 billion was spent. The only 4 that were started were those that had construction work in progress, which I think is worse than a tax because you're forced to pay. You don't know if you're going to get anything for it at all. If the plants are not completed, you don't get a refund. If the plants are completed, you're not a part owner, even though you paid for it. The ones that were completed, you already heard about. So it's 160% cost over is what the numbers amount to. But when you take the cost of the canceled reactors and the other paperwork, these 2 reactors have cost mainly Georgians, but also the consumers in the United States, taxpayers in the United States, $50 billion in all, in unequally distributed. Will small modular reactors solve this problem? They will not. We have large reactors because of economies of scale. It's just the physics and engineering of how reactors work. Large volume of water in one tank produces cheaper steam. Now, I understand, you know, we don't have mass manufacturing. So there are reduced costs so small reactors by technical design will cost more per kilowatt. You can reduce the cost by simplifying the design, and you can reduce the cost by mass manufacturing. Mass manufacturing requires a supply chain. Supply chain, we have to realize what the order of magnitude of supply chain we're talking about. We're not talking about cars that cost $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. We're talking about widgets that cost $100 and $200 and $300 million. So there's actually an industry of this scale. It's called aircraft manufacturing. There are only 2 mass manufacturing passenger aircraft manufacturers, you know, for large aircraft, Boeing and Airbus, and there are Canadian and Brazilian manufacturers for smaller aircraft. And there are only, basically 2 of those.
I'm going to need you to wrap up soon.
Okay.
We got dozens of people waiting. And
I am going to wrap up. What the likelihood is that a project that may never start. If it starts, it's likely to be canceled. That's what the history shows. If it is built, mass manufacturing has 2 common things: lower cost per widget, yes, but also recalls. I have failed to get anyone to address the cost of the problem of how we are going to address the problem of recalls. And the final thing I will say is, since 2005 to 2024, new reactors generated 40 terawatt hours of low carbon electricity. New solar and wind in the same period generated 120 times more carbon-free electricity. So I think the community might want to take into account whether starting or putting the chips on one nuclear project is even going to result in consistent employment for them. And if they do get that employment, whether it might not fall apart after the reactors start. I mean, this is a longer discussion. I'm going to file some written comments, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Simone Colburn. Mr. Paul Clonon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I would say it's great to see you, but I'm looking at a screen full of hands. So I can't actually see you. But I'm here to make my comments. I'm Paul Coleman. I'm a ratepayer in Boulder. I have a degree in physics from University of Colorado in Boulder. But I'm not going to give you a lecture on physics, I promise. The PUC should not approve any new fossil fuel power plants. The 25 existing gas-fired power plants are shortly going to be stranded assets. So please do not add to the financial burden of us ratepayers by adding more stranded assets. In the answer testimony of WRA and sweep witness Andy Iden, he argues for not applying the ELC, it's the effective load carrying capacity, not applying the ELC to DR resources, demand response, but rather simply subtracting the DR capacity from the peak load. It seems that Excel's modeling treats every resource as a base load, and so applies this ELCC factor to each resource as its capability of being base load, because nothing's available 100% of the time, so you need to account for that. This is 1950s thinking. Direct demand response are resources that need to be managed differently than coal-fired power plants. The most effective use of demand response is peak shaving. So we should model the peak load reduced by DR resources. I think the same argument applies to storage. Do not model storage as just another baseload power source, applying a very low ELCC to it. Model storage as a tool for peak shaving and load shifting. Applying the ELCC storage doesn't model the best use of storage for our ratepayers. Recognizing that the use of storage for peak shaving will increase its value in the grid and the modeling should lead to more storage being selected. I'm sure you've seen the charts from California showing how much storage they use in the late afternoon to fill in the head of the duck curve. We should be doing that here in Colorado also. On a grid with a high percentage of wind and solar, you do not want base load. This is yet another reason not to build nuclear power. You want resources like storage that can instantly fill in the gaps of wind and solar. So I highly encourage you to take another look at the way that Excel models DR and storage and how Excel could use demand response and storage much more effectively in a high renewable grid. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We'll come back. Ms. Simone Colburn. Yeah, there you are.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you. My name is Simone Colburn. I work with Mi Familia Vota to ensure that Latinos have a voice in shaping the policies that impact them most. I think Excel's current proposal, it charges customers for experimenting with unproven nuclear technology, putting all the risk on residents and giving all the benefits to shareholders. We need a plan that will meet demand for power while protecting residents from bearing unreasonably high costs and reducing pollution. We're finally transitioning away from fossil fuels, and with this, have a unique opportunity to truly make a change for the better, paving the path to a system that works for the people. As a young person who grew up with the pressing weight of environmental hazards, I want the next generation to grow up safer, healthier, and without a constant fear of their built environment. I've been fighting for this vision since I was 14 years old, and now I'm scared that the change we've been working towards for so long will only result in new structures of harm. Excel's current plan is neither safe, affordable, or sustainable. It is centered around the needs of AI and big tech rather than the needs of Colorado residents. Pueblo has long been a sacrifice zone, but energy no longer has to serve a win-lose relationship. Wind and solar can power our societies without simultaneously putting our lives at risk. A renewable energy park would be a long-term sustainable solution providing jobs, clean infrastructure, low-cost, high-functioning technology that would give back to the surrounding community. While Excel's current plan is not designed to serve the public, that's why the PUC has the final say. I really encourage you to please put Coloradans first by rejecting the JTS and instead moving forward with a renewable energy park. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin Dugan. Ms. Erin Dugan.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Erin Dugan. I'm from Colorado Springs. I'm a mom of two. I also volunteer with the Colorado branch of Mountain Mamas. I just wanted to come today and voice my support for a transition to 100% clean energy to ensure a promising future for not only the community of Pueblo, but also for future generations in the state of Colorado. I think Colorado has a real chance to show leadership here and forthright thinking by utilizing proven and reliable energy sources in the form of an energy park. I think this is where we should be focusing our resources and manpower, potentially backsliding into continued fossil fuel options or unproven, costly nuclear proposals. I feel like it's going to be very costly for ratepayers who should not be burdened with those poor decisions. And I understand that the data center issue is a big one, but I think we're accounting for speculative energy demands that from yet proposed data centers, which may never come to fruition. And from what I've read, these data centers, when they're being built, they want to run on clean energy. So I think the energy park is a logical step in that direction. Furthermore, there's speculation that there's already too many data centers being built. And with the emergence of new tech coming online, it's very possible that these data centers can be built utilizing less power and on a smaller scale. And I don't believe it's fair for Pueblo to continue in its present state as a sacrifice zone when we have logical alternatives that are readily available and cost efficient. Continuing with fossil fuels or gambling with nuclear is not a legacy that I wish to leave to my children. And I don't believe it's fair for the coming generations of Coloradans to be burdened with that either. And just wanted to thank you for your time and for the opportunity to speak. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us. Jamie Geeson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, commissioners, for taking the time to hear from Coloradans, and thank you for the work that you do. I want two things. First, I want a healthy environment. And second, I want an economy that my kid can find a job in and afford to live. And fortunately, those two things do not need to be in conflict if we make good decisions now, because renewable technologies have become competitive with oil and gas, and they're more competitive than nuclear power. Developers across the country, including in the state of Colorado, have been developing solar, wind, and geothermal technology and have been submitting proposals at record numbers over the past decade. Projects have already broken ground and many are functional. Renewable energy developers have experience and they are ready to get to work and employ Coloradans. 79% of the adult population of America supports further researching renewables and their place in our country. Renewable energy is where the future of our economy is, both in jobs and revenue, and that's why both developers and consumers are demanding renewable energy as a product, and they're demanding it now. I am asking the PUC to focus the money of the Colorado consumer on building a reliable grid and battery storage to support renewable energy. Let's put our focus on renewables now, because the longer we delay, we are just throwing our money away on a dying technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Johnson.
Hey there, good evening.
Hey.
I'm an XL customer in Boulder County. I'm a captive ratepayer. My electricity supply comes to me via a monopoly. I have no second or third choice, and my costs are rising. I'm also witness to the sometimes creeping, sometimes galloping effects of climate disruption in my longtime home state of Colorado. Electricity is a basic human need. A study in the journal Ecosphere tells us that a modest electric supply is necessary for human well-being. This basic supply of electricity should be job one for XL, provided to all XL customers at a base rate affordable price. Preventing damage to climate, air quality, and the environment are also priorities for XL customers like me. 96% of new energy generation in the U.S. in 2024 is made up of solar, wind, battery, and a small amount of nuclear power. 1.6 million XL customers like me need our rates to be reasonable, but not dependent on climate-damaging new generation facilities like fossil gas turbines. I'm hoping the PUC would require XL to submit a new JTS with the following: transparency and separate rate structures for new energy-hungry data centers. No shifting of data center costs into my utility bill. I do not want to subsidize power bills for data centers. Also, a mix of distributed energy renewable sources. Solar and wind resources are plentiful. The technology is fully developed. And with good leadership and good regulation, we can achieve an equitable and affordable XL grid. As part of the JTS, or perhaps separately, the PUC should also require rate structures that provide a basic measure of power at an affordable price to homes and businesses, and favorable rates for customers who have electrified. The Commission should also examine the return on equity that benefits XL shareholders and executives. RMI points out that, quote, ROE makes up 15 to 20% of customer bills. Getting such a large piece of the affordability puzzle in line will save customers money. Misaligned ROEs included in utility rates can result in increases in customer bills and create investment incentives that deviate from policy goals, unquote. I believe this is a major driver of the XL JTS proposal. I ask the commissioners to reject the JTS in its current form, require a new JTS free of harmful new generation facilities and excess profits. And I thank you for listening, and thanks for your work.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shoshone Kendall.
Hello, commissioners. My name is Shoshone and I live in Denver. Excel is my power provider, and I'm here because I care about Colorado's energy future. I'm especially worried about how energy decisions affect everyone who uses Excel, including myself. Electricity demand is growing quickly because more people are using technology like data centers for AI and building electrification in EVs. We need to think carefully about who will pay for this and how it affects everyday people. My energy bills have doubled recently, and as someone on a limited income, this makes it harder for me to pay for food and other basic needs. By 2030, Excel expects we'll need much more electricity, about 10,000 to 14,000 megawatts. If we choose risky, expensive options like nuclear power, this could harm communities already suffering from environmental problems. These projects cost billions, take a long time to build, and create dangerous waste. And often people in poorer or disadvantaged communities end up carrying most of these burdens. Instead, we should focus on renewable energy sources like wind, solar, and batteries. These options are affordable, safer, and cleaner. They create local jobs, keep prices stable, and help communities become healthier and stronger. So Pueblo, which has dealt with pollution from coal plants for years, deserves clean and fair solutions, not more risks or problems. So I urge you to choose renewable energy solutions that benefit everyone, protect our environment, and help communities thrive. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Justin Ralph Redding.
Thank you, commissioners, for having us today. I'm Justin Ralph Redding. I'm a resident here in Denver, Colorado. Just heard about this hearing today, so I wanted to pop in and speak in support of a couple things. One, a just transition for those communities facing closing coal plants in Greg and Hayden and Pueblo, and supporting their workers and communities to a new prosperous future. And also want us to just not lose sight of the big picture here in terms of the need to phase out coal and tackle climate change just absolutely as soon as possible. We all know the risks of climate. I mean, here along the Front Range is becoming more unbearable every year, and then the air quality issues exacerbated by heat and by fossil fuel air pollution are affecting more and more communities and vulnerable individuals. So that to me is the fundamental driver of what should be the decision-making process here, that we need to replace these coal plants with something that's carbon neutral, whether, from my point of view, I'm not going to get lost in the details here, whether it's wind, solar, geothermal, agnostic on nuclear, just not methane gas, and focus on that as the bottom line for the decision making here. I think it's easy to get caught into scarcity mindsets around different ratepayer communities of us as individuals and businesses and EVs and data centers. I think the solution is we need lots of power. We need it to be clean, and we need it to come online fast and transition off the carbon sources. I mean, that's, I think, fundamental. And then we don't have to fight over who gets the energy, or when, and how much Excel gets paid or doesn't get paid, right? I mean, this is our planet on the line, and those are the big picture fights that I think the commission should be thinking about. So thanks for your consideration, and I appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Velma Campbell. Ms. Tess Welton.
Hi, my name is Tess Weltzine, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm a resident of Lafayette and also a sophomore studying environmental science and global health at UW-Madison. First off, I want to thank you all for taking the time to hear from me today and representing Colorado. Your work is greatly appreciated. I'm here today to talk about this monumental proceeding we are currently facing. As energy demands increase within Colorado, we must prioritize economically and environmentally sustainable solutions. As a youth growing up in Colorado, our state has continued to experience severe climate change-related events and catastrophes. Our economy faces the strain of the warming planet in addition to our physical and mental health. My future is now blurred by this impending crisis, but to me, the solution is crystal clear. Sourcing our energy from solar and wind meets current demands in a sustainable way that does not compromise the health of local communities and all individuals involved. Excel's current plan and JTS does not align with these values. including large-scale solar and wind installations paired with battery storage and advanced thermal storage to ensure reliable 24/7 power and sustainable industrial development at the Comanche plant is exactly what our state needs. In addition, wind, solar, advanced batteries, and thermal storage systems are all widely currently in use. They can be built starting now, even before the plant closes in 2030, and they will create jobs and generate local property tax revenue commensurate to the replacement of the Comanche plant. It is imperative to see that statistically as well, wind and solar are the most economically sustainable options for sourcing our energy. Utility scale solar is $29 per megawatt hour, and in comparison for combined cycle baseload gas, it's $45. And for gas peaking plants, the levelized cost of energy is $110 per megawatt hour. Renewable energy sources are cost competitive as well and free from the volatile price fluctuations, unlike gas, and continuing to demonstrate this reliability of these energy sources, especially in comparison to nuclear as well. We are given an opportunity to create economic prosperity while setting the lead for clean energy within our state. Colorado has nation-leading benchmarks for cutting greenhouse gas emissions and accelerating the pathway to a fully clean energy economy. So let's continue that path. Our world is no longer waiting for this climate crisis. We are living it right now. Every year we delay action on climate change, the cost grows louder than our silence. The price grows in lives, homes, and futures lost. The question is no longer if we act, it's whether we act in time. Thank you for your commitment to hearing from Coloradans like me who are deeply invested in renewable energy. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us. Ms. Susan Lucan. Mr. Isaiah Flores.
Hi there. I want to say thank you so much to the commissioners for holding this public hearing. And I'm sorry, it is really coming down where I am. I'm in Aurora and it's raining so hard. But my name is Isaiah Flores. I'm a Aurora resident, and I'm going to be reading a comment from one of my neighbors who wasn't able to make it tonight, but feels really strongly about this issue. And her name is Allie Jackson. So here is that statement. As a mom, a foster parent, a social worker, and an Excel customer, I care deeply about protecting our children, our health, and our future. As a customer, I'm concerned about being asked to shoulder the cost of risky and expensive experiments with gas and nuclear energy, especially when safer, proven options like wind, solar, and battery storage are already available. Communities like Pueblo have already carried the weight of Colorado's energy production for decades, and replacing the Comanche plant with radioactive waste or more pollution is unacceptable. The city gets pollution while the rest of Colorado gets power. A Pueblo energy park built on renewable energy would create good jobs, support local economies, and reflect the kind of forward-thinking investments that we need. I urge the Public Utilities Commission to prioritize clean, cost-effective energy solutions that protect our families and our future. That's from Allie Jackson, Aurora resident. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, this is Susan Lucan. I couldn't unmute my microphone.
Yeah, go ahead. You're up. Okay. If you can turn on your camera, great. If not, no worries.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Your video has stopped. I'm not sure that I can. I'm mobile. So
go ahead.
So yeah.
You're
so thanks
good.
again for the opportunity to speak. My name is Susan Lucan. I live in Golden. I'm an Excel customer who also subscribes to SunShare and a native Coloradoan. So I obviously care deeply about our communities. I'm currently a contractor at a public institution that is trying to plan responsibly for the future. And the innovative solutions being produced right here in Colorado are awe-inspiring. So it's really gut-wrenching to think that while the clean energy transition is already underway and that solar has become the lowest cost energy producer, followed by wind, that there have been recommendations for a scenario that includes nuclear, which is not stable or reliable or low cost. I just read a book excerpt from a new book that explains why it is above all economics, not safety, that undercuts nuclear as a climate solution. So this book called The Hype About Hydrogen by a former US Department of Energy official describes nuclear as a false solution. And like some other people said, those small modular reactors that Bill Gates and others have championed turn out to be even more expensive. So $1 invested in renewables delivers much more carbon-free electricity than $1 invested in nuclear. And with the incredibly long timeline to build nuclear, those are massive borrowing costs, by which time things will have changed. There will be new technology and new innovation. So I understand that a just transition for Pueblo also means creating stable long-term jobs, hopefully without the risks of nuclear energy. And I was thinking about why I never went back to Pueblo Reservoir with my family, because of the toxic pollutants from Comanche. And if it became a nuclear site, I would most certainly never go back to Pueblo Reservoir. And on the other hand, Pueblo could become more of a clean, progressive community, driven by renewable energies and those technologies, including storage systems that are advancing rapidly. That would attract families and businesses and improve economics. Let's invest in solutions we know work and work well. So I believe that Pueblo deserves a future that's not just low carbon, but also safe, reliable, and economically secure. And that means building out renewable infrastructure and creating jobs in industries that are truly sustainable, not speculative. So I urge the Commission to keep Colorado on a clean energy path, prioritize renewables and storage, reject risky nuclear proposals, because the community deserves more than just tax benefits. And prosperity for all is more than just a suspected few extra jobs. And ensure that the just transition truly supports the communities that powered our past while protecting those who will inherit our future. The stakes are high. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Ms. Emma Ragona.
Hi, I will be reading on behalf of my neighbor as well, who was unable to make it. Let me pull this up here.
It's nice to have good neighbors.
Yes. Dear commissioners, as a member or as a resident of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and a ratepayer of Xcel, I am writing to express my concern about the future of our electric supply. With the immediate closure of the Comanche oil plant, it is critical that we invest in energy solutions that are affordable, reliable, and sustainable for the sake of Colorado's future. As a grandparent, this is something that I care deeply about, and I am opposed to proposals that will replace coal power with nuclear or gas generation. Nuclear generation is far too expensive and risky, and gas plants are subject to unpredictable market fluctuations that could lead to higher costs for all customers. I, for one, am already paying a lot living in Jeffco and Wheat Ridge, so I do not want to pay any more. And I believe that clean energy options like wind and solar are the best solutions for this meeting, for meeting the growing electricity demand. Sorry. It's not only the smart choice, it's a great economic choice. It's also the right choice for our future and for our grandchildren's future. I urge you to prioritize clean energy solutions for the future of Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you. Kara DePan.
Hello, members of the committee and everyone. First, thank you for taking the time today to listen to community members and our voices. My name is Kara DePan, and I'm a resident along with my partner, Nick, of Jefferson County, located in Lakewood. I'm here to strongly support moving towards affordable, renewable energy as we approach the retirement of the Comanche coal plant. As an advocate, someone who uses Xcel Energy and cares deeply about where our power comes from, I'm most concerned with ensuring Colorado's energy future is reliable, cost-effective, and transparent for everyday people. So Xcel's proposed reliance on nuclear and gas plants as replacements for coal plants is concerning, as these options would burden consumers with higher rates and subsequently financial risk. And nuclear energy in particular is prohibitively expensive, and gas prices, as we all know, are subject to volatile swings. So this is a significant financial risk for Colorado families and businesses, particularly as we face rising electricity demand. So instead, I plead and encourage the Commission to take the smarter path forward and invest in wind, solar, and battery storage technologies, which are not only more cost-effective, but also offer price stability in the long run. I think having plans that are future-proof is the only right answer, especially when it comes to our environment, communities, and our wallets. And it's a fact that renewables will allow Excel to meet growing electricity demand without placing the financial burden on consumers. So that's all I had. Thank you for your consideration. I kept it short. I trust that y'all will make decisions that keep electricity rates stable, affordable, and fair for all Coloradans. And many thanks again for your time and allowing me to speak today. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Mr. Graham Weaver.
Good evening, fellow Coloradans. Good evening, commissioners. I'd like to applaud Tess Welton, who had a fantastic comment just before me, so kudos to her. My name is Graham Weaver. I'm a Routt County resident of 8 years, currently residing in Hayden. I've made a living here as a residential solar installer, a licensed electrician, and more recently working with the local electric cooperative to review solar net metering applications and to help develop DER programs. My comment today is that of my own and may not reflect the views of the local cooperative. I've tuned into previous public comment sessions, including the in-person session in Hayden, and have deliberated back and forth what I could add in a 3-minute time slot. I'd like to simply highlight some ideas explored in other written testimonies that I think the commission should focus on. Andy Iden recommends that PSCO should develop a clean transition tariff to shift cost burdens of large loads onto corporations rather than ratepayers. Chris Neal recommends that PSCO explore more low-cost alternatives to brand new combustion turbines that have doubled in price over the past few years, and lays out the value of retrofitting existing turbine generation into combined cycle generation. James Crooks asks the PUC to require PSCO to track and report primary and secondary PM 2.5 emissions from all fossil-fueled plants. Ron Stinton would like to see EV charging modeled with daytime demand response charging patterns in mind. I like how he talks about Australia here and how they do it over there. I thought that was interesting. He'd also like to see them modeled as a flexible supply side resource that can be dispatched to absorb excess renewables, making use of growing curtailment of wind and solar. Tyler Cummings pointed out that PSCO's modeling doesn't factor in the purchase of sales of energy in regional markets. He also suggests that the 100 million fund, carbon-free development fund, lacks ROI for ratepayers and specific criteria for eligible technologies to make use of that fund. I'd like to quickly throw in here as it relates to this fund, the growing viability of gravity-based energy storage with round-trip efficiency of 80% that makes use of coal ash waste and repurposes that waste into massive bricks that can store otherwise curtailed solar and renewable energies. I liked Zach Pollock's rebuttal testimony. I thought that was interesting as he stressed the importance of avoiding double compensation for DERs for both net metering and VPP credits. I also thought he did a good job of defending his modeling of DERs, speaking to the need for PSCO to model 24/7, 365 dispatch, as opposed to other DER programs where members might only subscribe to a 4-day per month dispatchability. And of course, being a Hayden resident, I'd like to urge the PUC to consider Tim Redmond and Matthew Mendisco's call for PSCO to pony up 10 years of property tax backfill to support our local schools and fire district. I'd really enjoy knowing that my friends raising families here in Hayden have schools and institutions here that they can expect their debts to be paid and have teachers. So to wrap it up, given my experience in renewables, the town I live in, the desire to breathe clean air, and the task of delivering cheap, clean, and reliable energy for the people of Northwest Colorado, it's safe to say the themes presented in this JTS are themes I grapple with every day. These testimonies were all over the place, and I did my best to understand each side of the coin here. I don't exactly have a call to action from the PUC. You all have your hands full, and being the first of its kind, I appreciate the PUC's rigor in reviewing this proceeding.
Welcome to our lives, reading all that testimony.
Oh yeah, I used some AI for that. I gotta say, it really helped. So I guess I added some demand onto to some data center somewhere for that. So
I guess if I was younger, I'd be using the AI like you and my kids. But Ms. Shayna Oliver. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you for taking comments. My name, I want to first acknowledge that Mom's Clean Air Force, we acknowledge the ancestral lands of over 574 tribal nations known as the United States. And I live and work on the ancestral lands of the 48 tribal nations of what's known as Colorado. My name is Shayna Oliver. I'm a field organizer with Mom's Clean Air Force, Echo Madre's Colorado chapter, a national organization of 1.5 million moms, dads, and caregivers united for our children's right to breathe clean air in a safe environment with over 43,000 Colorado members. Importantly, I'm an Indigenous mother of 4 and wife, and we are the descendants of the genocide known as the Indian Removal Act, known to the Diné as the Long Walk of the Navajo. As a tribal affiliate of the Navajo Nation, I've seen the devastating land and health impacts contributed by coal, uranium, oil, and gas extraction. Because of these disparities, Indigenous people now have the highest rates in asthma, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, leukemia, adverse birth outcomes, and premature deaths in the general population. My family and I can check off on many of these conditions to almost all of them. My grandfather worked in the coal plant industry and was forced into early retirement due to having asthma attacks on the job site. My grandfather was also one of the Navajo men and women that mined uranium without knowledge of the harmful impacts to public health. Because of systemic environmental violence and racism built into our treaties, laws, policies, and regulations, Black, Brown, Indigenous, and low-income people continue to be segregated and redlined into communities near polluting industries. And Pueblo, Colorado has borne the burden of these harmful pollutants due to fossil fuel reliance. Scientists have known for decades that human-caused air pollution is harmful to our health, and this is especially true for vulnerable populations such as older adults, people with underlying health conditions, communities of color, pregnant women, and children. Parents of Colorado urge Xcel Energy to commit to replacing dirty energy produced by the Pueblo coal plant with clean wind and solar energy and effective battery storage that will be affordable, sustainable, and beneficial to public health, economic development, and environmental protection. We need Xcel Energy to be better neighbors, to be leaders for bold climate action, and to stop the reliance of fossil fuels that harm our health and air quality. Xcel should utilize their investments to transition to sustainable energy and to allow tribes and private renewable energy owners to provide more access to wind and solar energy, as well as update transformers and battery storage facilities. It's time for Xcel to be held accountable to reach emission reductions and environmental justice outlined by House Bill 1261 and House Bill 1266, including upholding the Just Transition Bill meant to protect workers of the industries to have a job transition after closure. We need equitable, renewable energy and energy efficiency options to clean our air, protect the health of our families, and better serve our vulnerable communities. We urge the Colorado Public Utilities Commission to approve an energy plan that prioritizes these renewable energy options and rejects dangerous, untested technologies and harmful fossil fuels that further cause injustice in the Pueblo community. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us and thanks for sharing your experience. Greatly appreciated. Ms. Heidi Leithwood.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify tonight. I've given public comment in an earlier hearing, but my comments tonight are different. I'm Heidi Leithwood, Climate Policy Analyst with 350 Colorado. We're a grassroots climate and environmental justice action group with almost 20,000 members statewide. Many of our members are Xcel ratepayers, and I am as well. I'm speaking mainly as a member of the public tonight, but I'd like you to know that our members also share my concerns. I'm a mother of two 20-somethings, and I just learned I'll become a grandmother in December. So apologies in advance if I get emotional tonight. I have
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have grave concerns about the future, as my children and grandchild will face multiple dangers because of global warming. In fact, that is why a few years ago I left behind a rewarding career in another field to spend the rest of my life fighting for every fraction of a degree of temperature rise we can prevent. And I know you understand the dangers of climate change, and I appreciate very much your work. After starting my climate work, I learned many things about environmental justice and injustice that I am frankly ashamed that I did not know before. And I now see that it is central to the problem and the solution. Xcel's plan does not fit with my vision of the clean, healthy, fair world that I would like to see, where we're all working together for a common good. To achieve this world, we cannot listen to the for-profit companies who would like us to think we have to continue using polluting sources of energy. We cannot fall for their schemes of making people pay for unnecessary equipment that will put frontline communities in danger and continue warming our planet. Sorry. In this world, excuse me. Oh my goodness, I practiced so that I wouldn't do this. In this world, we would all work together to create a thriving network of care and compassion that values well-being and happiness higher than company profits. Maybe that is idealistic, but we can take steps in this direction. It is a fact that renewable energy combined with storage solutions is the quickest and cheapest way to meet our energy needs while also reducing pollution. We already have gas plants. We don't need more. We need to double down on achieving clean air and stopping the warming of our planet. A clean and healthy environment is a human right, according to the United Nations. Access to electricity is also legally recognized as a human right, and to be accessible, it must be affordable. We can take steps toward both of those goals by refusing Xcel's request to charge ratepayers for the slush fund, putting an end to building new gas plants, and acknowledging that carbon capture and storage and nuclear are dangerous distractions to achieving our goals. Thank you very much for listening and for your important work.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Mr. Glenn Fieldman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you very much for inviting us to comment. My name is Glenn Fieldman. I live in Arvada, and before I proceed to my own comment, I would like to thank my fellow commenters from whom I've learned this afternoon, and just say that it's really encouraging to see so many people give up a big chunk of their afternoon to participate in this hearing. It's really important, and I find a lot of encouragement from it, so thank you. So Commissioners, I urge you to turn down or to oppose the just transition plan proposed by Xcel Energy, and instead support the proposed renewable energy park in Pueblo to replace the output of the closing Comanche plant. and to meet the anticipated demand from data centers and general economic expansion. I'm an Xcel customer, and the renewable energy park idea sounds much better to me from the standpoint of environmental safety, economic and environmental justice, and lower costs for ratepayers than Xcel's proposal to meet demand with new gas turbines and a nuclear power plant. I don't think Puebloans who have been living with pollution from Comanche should be saddled with the risks of a nuclear power plant, including possible on-site storage. Nor should a new generation of workers be exposed to all the risks associated with uranium mining and processing, risks which have been borne disproportionately by Indigenous Americans. Nor should any of us be exposed to the risks presented by climate change. I just read last week that we have pretty decisively blown past the 1.5 degrees Celsius ceiling that was agreed at Paris. We are on track to blow through 2.2 degrees Celsius of warming over pre-industrial temperatures in the next decade or so. And most scientists believe that going past 2 degrees is highly dangerous. We just can't do it. So no gas turbines. The renewable energy transition is still in early days, but it's also very exciting. Colorado has vast untapped potential for distributed solar. Geothermal's potential has barely been tapped, and storage technology is moving forward in leaps and bounds. There are thermal batteries, gravity batteries, hybrid sodium-lithium batteries that can operate better than lithium at Colorado's low winter temperatures. This type of battery is currently powering an entire Chinese city, so they are viable, they are working, they're installed. Compressed air energy storage's low capital costs make it an economically viable alternative for Colorado, which, according to Sandia Labs, has abundant appropriate sites available. A renewable energy park in Pueblo that will take advantage of these new technologies seems like the cleaner, safer way to go to replace the lost jobs and to attract forward-looking businesses for Pueblo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Talka Woods.
Thank you, commissioners, for allowing public comments regarding the Xcel JTS application. It is a challenging task to evaluate the most efficient, safest, least invasive, and cost-effective energy resource supply. As a Pueblo County resident, 1/2 mile from Comanche Transition Station, it is difficult to witness testimonies and suggestions from individuals who do not live near the Pueblo Comanche generating station. These individuals will benefit from the outcome of the transition, but are not directly affected by the process. I would like to address concerns about solar energy as well as wind turbines and industrial battery storage. There are valid arguments that these alternatives can be harmful both environmentally and in terms of land usage. Studies have suggested that this green energy narrative may be more dangerous to the earth and its inhabitants than nuclear, natural gas, or fossil fuels ever were or will be. I urge you to review the studies and facts carefully before making the best possible decision for the residents of Pueblo County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us, Cassidy Rowan.
Hi, my name is Cassidy Rowan, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but I do work in human services, specifically with people who are ill, aging, or close to passing away. And a lot of these individuals are suffering from things like respiratory issues or asthma, anything that, especially if they're in a sacrifice zone, which many of them are. But it's ultimately something that puts them in hospitals and forces them onto the type of plans that we create. And those plans are expensive. So not only are you looking at potentially taking more money from the people who are already paying too much for this energy, you're also looking at potentially endangering other people's health to the point that it is economically unwise to do this on multiple levels. renewable energy is something that we know is an option, that we know works. And I urge you to consider why this company would take that knowledge and still make this proposal and ask that we pay for it, because it absolutely adds insult to injury. And choosing to allow it to pass would add insult to injury as well. The health of our constituents should be prioritized to a level that it never has been. And making decisions like these, where we say, yes, we're making steps towards renewable energy, those are the types of things that make constituents believe that they're cared for. So with all of that in mind, I ask that you please consider how this will affect us physically and economically, if in this case, a big business is prioritized over the population they're supposed to be serving. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Mr. Eric Frankowski.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Chairman Blank?
Yeah, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. My name is Eric Frankowski, and I'm the executive director of an organization called the Western Clean Energy Campaign. I've provided comments to the commission on the XL JTS docket twice previously, once in Pueblo and in your last virtual hearing. First, thank you for hosting this second virtual hearing. The significant changes in XL's proposal and the added risks to customers since the ERP was first filed are exactly why the public needed a chance to comment after all of the testimony was submitted. Kudos to the commission for making sure we had this opportunity. My current comments are specific to two aspects of XL's proposed ERP that have been detailed in its most recent filings, the so-called Strategic Resilience Reserve Fund and the most recent revision of the Carbon-Free Future Development Fund. I'll be blunt, both of these proposals are a little more than slush funds that XL would like customers to foot the bill for, to the tune of more than $500 million. These slush funds take away the commission's oversight of prudent expenditures and would allow a monopoly utility to shift all of the risks of its business planning onto customers with few guardrails. I'll start with the SRRF. XL is asking you to give them the authority to go out and begin acquiring gas turbines and other equipment that it thinks it might need in the future but doesn't know for sure, at a cost to customers of up to $500 million. The whole point of the resource planning process is to ensure that decisions are made prudently and that any expenses are made for resources that are used and useful. A gas turbine or transformer sitting in a warehouse waiting around in case it might be needed sometime in the future is neither used nor useful. If it is never used, customers eat the entire cost. If it is not used but sold at a premium, then oddly, XL shareholders get to keep half the profits without having invested a single dime. I'd be hard-pressed to think of a more greedy scheme. The CFD is no better, giving XL the ability to charge customers for its experimentation and playing around with new technologies. It was bad enough when proposed as a $100 million slush fund. In its latest testimony, XL has proposed taking away that cap and simply letting the utility charge customers whatever they want for the next decade, removing any doubt that the company wants to reach as deep into customers' pockets as it can. Beyond the financial harm to customers, both proposals also pose huge problems for the Commission's prerogative of seeking the best deal for Coloradans through a competitive bidding process. If XL is allowed to start spending on experimental technologies, whatever it invests in has a head start and leg up in the race for new generating capacity. If it has gas turbines already on hand, then gas automatically is a preferred resources over things like wind, solar, and battery storage that are starting at square one. Both funds pose dangers to Colorado's decarbonization and the continued growth of affordable renewable energy. They are also entirely inconsistent with the idea of competitive bidding and prudent expenditures. They are an end around over the Commission's ability to hold the company accountable. Now, XL claims that it needs new tools that are currently unavailable in the resource planning process to be able to meet growing demand. At the same time, it is working to achieve carbon reduction requirements and just transition obligations. That's just plain BS. XL has every tool it needs at its disposal. If it thinks there's a future in small modular reactors or carbon capture, it's free to go out and do all the preliminary engineering and testing and design it wants. If its projections show that new gas capacity or transformers will be needed, it can secure spots in production queues now for as much equipment as it thinks it will need. These are business decisions that any corporation has to make. What Excel is proposing, however, is to take the entire risk for such future-looking decisions away from its shareholders and dump the entire load on the backs of its customers. Let's be absolutely clear. Excel has the resources it needs to either throw things against the wall or speculatively buy equipment now. Last year, the company raked in $13.4 billion in revenue, earning at almost $2 billion in net profit. In the past 3 years, Excel's chairman and CEO took home $44 million in compensation. Think about that. Last year, its top 5 executives earned $27 million in salary, benefits, and bonuses. In the past decade, earnings per share have ballooned by 77%, and shareholder dividends paid out have skyrocketed by 94%. This is not a company that needs customer-funded, customer-backed slush funds approaching $1 billion in order to survive. I urge you to let Excel do all the experimenting and advanced purchasing it wants, but to put that risk where it belongs, on Excel's shareholders and executives. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and especially for scheduling the second public comment hearing. And Chairman Blank, I'd just like to make one administrative request. I understand through back channels that there are several folks on the call who may be using Zoom for the first time or calling in to make a public comment for the first time and don't have their hands raised. If you could make an effort to make sure they have a chance at the end of the hearing to speak, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Will do. We'll definitely accommodate that. Mr. Brian Gibson, your camera's been on and I've been watching you wait patiently. So you're up, sir. And you're muted. There you go.
I presumed you removed the muting. I guess I was wrong. I am Brian Gibson, the founder and president of Morningstar Power. Our mission is to provide energy when we need it. We are a Colorado public benefit corporation formed in March of 23 to design, build, and operate hydrogen storage power plants. In October of 23, my wife and I bought a 153-acre parcel on the edge of NextEra's Golden West Wind Park as the site for Morningstar to build its prototype plants. The site is 30 miles east of Colorado Springs, about halfway between Calhan and Yoder. There is a lot of safe hydrogen storage in the world, but when one says hydrogen, the first thing some people think is Hindenburg. Because safety is always at the forefront of what we do at Morningstar, last June we introduced El Paso Planning and Development to our plans to build these plants. This is the beginning of what will be an ongoing partnership with our local governments to assure the highest standards of safety. Morningstar Power is the answer Excel is looking for. Morningstar is in the right place at the right time with the right stuff to power homes and businesses when the intermittent energy sources, solar and wind, are not producing energy. The right place. We can connect 1.7 megawatts to the grid immediately. There is a wind turbine on the land Pat and I bought. That turbine has a 1.7 megawatt connection to the wind park substation. When this turbine is not in operation, we can send our stored energy straight onto the grid. Happily, this is exactly the time the grid needs our energy. The right time. Some might think this is an awful time for the new energy business. Government grants suddenly seem unlikely, but long-term, the marketplace will decide what works. Morningstar's proprietary means to cost competitively store hydrogen, coupled with new technology in electrolyzers and in hydrogen to electricity conversion, means now is the time. We at Morningstar are eager to demo that we can outcompete natural gas power plants. The right stuff. I have a BS in physics from Caltech. I have an MS and PhD in physics from the University of Illinois. For 27 years, I designed and built electronics for communication satellites. No one person, however, knows enough by themselves to build hydrogen storage power plants. That is why Morningstar is currently in negotiations with Electric Green, another Colorado-based company. Electric Green is already doing most of what Morningstar wants to do. They could build a 1.7 megawatt hydrogen power plant for Morningstar as soon as we sign a contract. The right customer. Amazingly, Xcel is also the right customer. Not only do they have the current need to replace their coal-fired plants, they are NextEra's customer for the energy produced at NextEra's wind park. Should Xcel say the word, NextEra, who themselves want to see progress in the world of energy storage, would be delighted to connect Morningstar's power to the grid. Questions aren't permitted within the context of this hearing. I would, however, be glad to take any questions anyone has through our website, morningstarpower.com. That's all one word, morningstarpwr.com. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Colin Johnson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colin Johnson. I'm a resident of North Denver. Xcel is my provider. I care very deeply about my community. My neighbors and I contend with the pollution from 3 major highways and nearby energy production facilities every day. And my neighbors further to the west have more than enough experience contending with the legacy of radioactive contamination from cost-cutting and safety oversights while Rocky Flats was in operation. And that's nothing to say of the impacts that others here have highlighted on indigenous communities from mining of and exposure to radioactive materials. As a resident of North Denver contending with pollution, I check my wind direction as much as I check my emails. As a father of a son, my expectations for my ability to protect him are constantly shifting. And with that said, I just want to say that I really value having a space, having a voice in this process, and would really like to voice my support for a clean energy park so that the people of Pueblo can live and raise their families without the fear of adverse impacts from pollution and contamination. I cannot voice any point better than anyone who has already spoken here today, specifically those who've spoken on behalf of marginalized and disadvantaged communities and those who've spoken on behalf of younger generations. I just want to say I'm grateful for their courage and conviction. What I would like to do is use my brief time to just appeal directly to the members of the PUC who'll be reviewing these comments and Xcel's proposal. I don't envy the monumental task that you all have doing this. And as somebody who used to work in a space where I had to review a lot of public comments, I know it's a lot, and I just want to reiterate that gratitude to you all. I just want to say that, Colorado is not a state, in my opinion, that is afraid to go against the grain and set an example for the rest of the country. And I refuse to believe that the majority of people at the PUC got into this space and into this role because the thought of creating value for shareholders was something that ignited their passion. I believe that in my heart that you stepped into your roles because you wanted to help create a better, safer Colorado for future generations. And so I just implore you as a fellow proud Coloradan who loves his neighborhood, loves his community, and loves this state, to please not be afraid to make the bold decisions. Please don't fail to recognize how powerful you are. And I just want to leave you with saying just that, the next generation, my son, others will be watching this and this decision and how these decisions are being made, and they'll be remembered. And so I just want to leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to see, Ms. Jones-Seaman, I don't think you spoke.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Well, Colorado is a very interesting state. And just recently to promote nuclear power as clean energy and green energy is a shock. And I'll tell you, I've been working with some folks down in Pueblo, and I'm so concerned about city and county that have been sacrifice zones. Comanche's been there some time. Coal plant has been there some time. And the emissions that come from that coal plant, heavy metals, radionuclides, chemicals, and the community just has no idea just how dangerous it is. But the most interesting piece in my research and working with these citizens, well, not working with them, but certainly, sharing ideas, was the fact that the energy goes to Denver And I went, whoa, whoa, what do you mean, Pueblo City County? You don't benefit from this. They don't benefit from it except taxes and revenue. And I hate to say that I've done research now around the country and wondered, well, how did all this happen with nuclear power? How did it move with so many nuclear power plants? Well, there certainly are problems with nuclear power right now that haven't been fixed. And Excel knows they've had a problem with Monticello. They've had a problem with Prairie Island, the Monticello power plant in the state of, well, when we say in the state of, but Excel has been working on their leaks. They've been leaking tritium. Well, most of the nuclear power plants do. And I want to say that I'm so sad to find out that Pueblo is a sacrifice zone, and they are looking for jobs and tax revenue like all of the history of nuclear power. Those communities were looking for taxes and tax revenue and jobs. And I don't want to keep too long because so many people have given such great testimony. But, you know, Excel was already in Pueblo with a PISAC group, PISAC. And the people were chosen, hand chosen. The public could not make a presentation specifically to this Excel Energy supported group that got together to determine, well, what do we need here to replace Comanche? Their decision was nuclear power, but they wouldn't let the citizens stand up and speak to the group. I have a problem with that. And it will be so important for us to take a look, because don't get me wrong, Pusey, I was really startled to find out that Fort St. Vrain has right now some serious nuclear waste that's being stored. It's so serious that they have to have federal agents there carrying submachine guns because of the MOX fuel. I don't know if you understood what the MOX fuel is. And right now, our country does not produce MOX fuel, but we do know that France is doing that for perhaps using that kind of fuel in the future. But thank you so much for being there. And you've got a lot of citizens that are so concerned about the fact, even if a gas plant shows up, they're going to continue just absolutely being polluted. So again, not that articulate, but I'm just telling you that I am so glad that you are there. And I do have a concern for this dear community that has sacrificed themselves for years with pollution. Thank you again.
Thank you. Ms. Marie Verding Venner. Mr. Eric Owen, have we heard from you? I don't think so.
No, you have not. You have in Hayden, but
right. Maybe that's why the name's familiar.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Eric Owen. I live in Hayden, Colorado, and I serve as the superintendent of schools in Hayden. I submitted public comment in the in-person commission public comment session that you hosted, and appreciated you coming up to the Northwest. But following the rebuttal from Excel Energy, I wanted to step up to the mic one more time. Hayden, Colorado, and the Hayden School District, it's a small rural school district in Northwest Colorado. And the shutdown of the Hayden Generating Station has been accelerated since the initial proposal in 2019, and it's created a fiscal cliff for our district. And it relates back to the tax revenue, which isn't the end all be all, I understand from much of the testimony here, but for us, it creates a significant issue. My district stands to lose over $2 million, and after hearing about some of the executive compensation packages, it doesn't sound like that much. But for us, it's 15% right off the top of our operating budget. It includes $605,000 that goes toward bond repayments, a bond that was passed by the citizens of Hayden in 2017, with the belief that the operation of a generating station that had been there for more than 40 years would remain in operation. They were partners with our community. When the station closure was announced by Xcel Energy, initially it was set for 2036. They moved the timeline up until it was 27 and 28 for the two generating pieces of equipment, and it places us in a tenuous community, or tenuous position. Xcel's most recent refusal to provide equitable support for Routt County and the town of Hayden puts our daily operations and our long-term infrastructure at risk. I've heard a lot of folks presenting from Pueblo, and I appreciate their concerns. In Pueblo, a plan was submitted by Xcel to agree to 10 years of backfill in property tax revenues. This is a community of over 111,000 in the city of Pueblo and 168,000 in its metro area. In Hayden, we have a community of just over 1,900 residents, and they've proposed 6 years. That's not a just transition. It's a double standard. A community the size of Pueblo does have diversified economic factors that can help it absorb the closure in ways Hayden cannot. Hayden and Routt County were not party to the 2022 agreement where Xcel Energy put forth the 6-year plan to the PUC, but we're being asked to bear the consequences of it without input into its creation and without benefit afforded to other communities. Xcel has also declined to support a one-time debt payoff that would stabilize community services, school district, fire district, and local government. It would reduce the average homeowner's tax burden and reduce Xcel's long-term tax obligations. Instead, they've offered vague redevelopment plans with projected tax losses to Routt County and the town of Hayden in what would approximately equate to $2.5 million a year. The state of Colorado has made a promise that no community will be left behind in this transition. Right now, the town of Hayden and Routt County and the stakeholders of our school district are being left behind and left out. I asked the commission to require to support the proposal put forth by town manager or Matt Mandisco and Routt County Commissioner Tim Redmond for 10 years of property tax backfill to support the town of Hayden and Routt County as they move forward in economic diversification. Xcel recognizes and has established that that is an appropriate standard toward a just transition, just as it is to their proposal to Pueblo County regarding the Comanche generating station, and as a part owner of Tri-State's generating power plant in Craig, which is a mere 14 miles west of Hayden. Hayden School District and the community are asking for similarly constructed agreement. A second request would be supporting the one-time investment to retire local government and school debt, thereby saving the residents' tax burden, but also allowing the citizens of Hayden and Routt County the opportunity to move forward in that economic diversification. That tax burden being removed would help ensure that. And then finally, just ensure that local entities, we've heard this from a couple of other testimonies today, ensure that local entities are involved, citizens are involved in future transition planning. This should give the economic development requests at the town of Hayden the opportunity to experience a just transition as it diversifies its economy from the status quo. I appreciate your time. I know I've given testimony before. You're actually going to read one in writing. I submitted as well. On behalf of the of Hayden School District, the Board of Education, staff, and students, I just asked the Public Utility Commission to support the proposal from Routt County and the town of Hayden. We are unable to educate tomorrow's workforce if we bankrupt our community today. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the work and the presence that you guys have had, both in Northwest rural Colorado and through these two virtual town halls that we've been able to provide comment. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time, and do remember you from Hayden. Ms. Velma Campbell.
There we go. Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. Thank you for the opportunity to make another presentation to you. And we certainly appreciate the time and energy that the commissioners put into this public input process, particularly holding this hearing after the evidence was fully submitted. As a public health, my name is Velma Campbell. I'm from Pueblo. As a public health and occupational medicine physician in Pueblo since 1988, I want to address that the public health is integral to all aspects of just transitions. For Pueblo and other communities affected by this JTS, including the XL Pueblo generating station. Pueblo, like other environmental justice communities, is impacted in multiple ways by the climate conditions necessitating a transition. In particular, Pueblo has higher than state average rates of respiratory and cardiovascular and other chronic diseases. Also, there's unemployment, low income, food insecurity, health care inequities, and climate impacts of heat storms and air pollution. Health impacts of fossil fuels and occupational hazards faced by workers in the heavy industries must be addressed in a just transition, both by promoting renewable energy and related industries, and by ensuring that worker and environmental health standards are met in the new technologies and practices adopted. Although attention to the well-paid union jobs directly affected by the transition is a critical task, is critical to a successful just transition is attention to the impacts of the solutions on the wider communities. Proposals for the XLJTS should emphasize the replacement of fossil fuel generating capacity with renewable energy and related industries, as well as ideas such as the energy park you've heard discussed this evening. This would be a just transitions investment in our community's health, economy, and environment, indeed in our future. The XLJTS should not waste time and money on speculative notions such as polluting gas plants, dangerous and experimental nuclear schemes, and risk avoidance funds that should be the responsibility of the shareholders. I think this is an opportunity to build a bright future for Pueblo and the other just transitions impacted communities, such as we just heard from. So I appreciate the JTS and I appreciate the PUC and your work on the JTS. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak who hasn't spoken? Mr. Scott Carpenter.
Hello, my name is Scott Carpenter. I am a Pueblo resident, and behind me, you will see the Comanche Power Plant. I'm a resident of this neighborhood and represent a coalition of hundreds of homeowners in this neighborhood that are tremendously concerned with this energy park. All of the fields surrounding our neighborhood, 820 some acres, are subject to this energy park. We already have precedents with the Pueblo County Commission with denying a solar field in our backyard, as it will destroy home values in our neighborhood, as was affirmed by research and the Pueblo County Commission. We are all for opportunities for new power generation. Right over here, we have a massive natural gas line flowing right basically to the Comanche plant. I love the hydrogen idea, and we're open to all kinds of opportunities and the economic opportunities for Pueblo to maintain power generation in Pueblo. But a solar park is not what we need right here. There's thousands of acres, millions of acres available for solar generation, even in Pueblo County, just not in this neighborhood. Thank you very much.
I have to say you win the award for the best background.
It's all natural.
It's all natural.
And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that power plant. It doesn't look bad.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Going once, going twice. Ms. Marie Wilverding Venner, are you there? I saw you unmuted. Janine Fittement. Anybody who'd like to speak, please go ahead and start talking.
I had put my hand up.
Yeah, and we can hear you now. Go ahead. Thank you.
Janine Fidiment.
Yep.
Janine Fidiment hand up.
Yep, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, I had to stop my video because that's how bad my connection is. Anyway, I'm new to Pueblo. I'm new to Colorado. And it seems like the vast majority of people worded things much better than I can. So I just want to say that I appreciate everybody's comments and I agree with so many of them. And they were the vast majority. So I'll just leave it at that. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for joining us and appreciate your time. Anybody else? Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out and for the thoughtful comments. As always, I learned a ton. Appreciate you guys. This is one of my favorite parts of the process. And thanks again. Commissioner Gilman, comments?
Yeah, likewise, very much appreciate hearing from each of you with your experiences and perspectives on the JTS plan, and really appreciate the courage it comes to come and speak and spending your evening with us to share those thoughts. So thank you all very much.
Mission plan.
Yeah, I would just share the comments of my colleagues. Thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with us. This really does make a huge difference for us. We tend to hear from, the people that represent various different groups that are intervening in the proceedings in front of us. And so these opportunities are really the chance for us to hear directly from people in the communities about what they're concerned about and how our decisions will impact your lives. So appreciate you sharing your experiences and your perspectives and taking time out of your day.
Thanks again, everyone. And for once, it worked out with the 2 hours we had available. So appreciate it. Thanks again. And with that, we're adjourned, and we have a hearing in June. And as Ms. Castle said, a decision sometime later this summer, early in the fall. Thanks all. Bye now.